Well, I'm back from that big intermission. It was actually a 6 hour intermission, but I wanted to come back and finally retape that talking about the doshas. So by now, I think everyone has done their dosha chart and basically done the questionnaire. And so when we look at that, there are, and some of this might be repetitive from earlier in the week, but there are 3 doshas and 3 possibilities of dominance. So Vata, which is space and air, Pitta, which is fire and water, and Kapha, which is earth and water. Now you could have either one of those 3 very dominant, or you could have combinations. I'm going to focus on the dominance and then talk a little bit about the combinations. So if you did your questionnaire and you found that Vata, the space element, was the highest, then what we do in Ayurveda is work to balance the qualities that are that dosha. So the qualities of Vata are dry, light, cold, rough, subtle, mobile, clear, and astringent. So what that means, that Vata is all about changeability, excitement, artistic nature, and also Vatas tend to go out of balance by the irregularity and the changeability being too much. So Vata is like wind. It blows, everything is always moving. And what you can think of is like a cold wind in the winter and just kind of brushing through and moving things around, and nothing is stable or grounded. And so with the Vata constitution, the work we do is to ground and stabilize. And one way, the best way to do that is through regular diet, regular eating timing, and regularity in your lifestyle. So the Vata constitution will typically be very resistant to this. They won't like regularity, but because of that, they can easily lead to kind of anxiety and stress due to irregularity. And so we do want to ground them out a little bit. So the true Vata will need grounding and stability and might be slightly resistant to that, but will do better in health. So we're always talking about how to balance in that we could do better in health. And the way the Vata will do better in health is to be more stable, a little bit more grounded, and also to use that as a place to come from in their creativity and in their excitement and in the fact that they bring to the table that energy of change and basically change. So that's the Vata. And then the second dosha that we haven't talked that much about is the Pitta. And the Pitta is the fire and the water elements. The element of Pitta is hot, sharp, oily, also mobile, and can be quite sharp and hot. So with the Pitta, think about the essence of summer, the heat, and the sometimes extreme heat, and also the heat of like boiling water, because it's fire plus water together. So it's like steam or boiling water is your Pitta element. If we think about the Pitta dosha will be a strong fire type. So they will have a hard time when there's a lot of external heat, and in either by the sun or mostly by the sun. And they would also have a hard time with more fire in their energy body, meaning more emotional energy projected outward. They might have a harder time in conflict resolution, but they might be very sharp and wit filled, but also harder time in conflict resolution. What the Pittas need for balance is really to stay cool. So a Pitta constitution, I'm a Pitta constitution, partially, and a Pitta constitution will be most balanced by staying cool. So a balanced Pitta can do very well. They can be quite successful in life, but they could also get sharp and aggressive and over sharp in their lives, and that can lead to heat in the body. So heat in the body or the mind, and the heat in the body can lead to long-term inflammation and pain, etc. So the thing that we want to do for a Pitta constitution is we want to really balance the heat. As long as a Pitta stays cool enough, they can be they're most healthy. So balancing the heat looks like eating, especially in the summer, eating more cooling foods, not being super attached to outcomes, not being super rigid with their schedule, not being super rigid in any ways in their life. So just being a little bit more loose and a little bit cooler, both energetically and dietarily. If you are a true Pitta fire type, you will have the most challenge in the summer, right? If you are couple doshas together, maybe summer is, favorite season, but the true Pitta will have a hard time in full sun and full heat. And we'll work on Pitta constitution in the summer more. So summer cleanse, we'll do a little bit of that. Pittas want to make sure not to eat too much spicy, greasy, oily foods or alcohols, because those all can aggravate Pitta. So if you do know you're a Pitta, watch those items and watch if you're attracted to those items. Okay. And then Kapha, we've talked a lot about Kapha this week, but I want to review it. Earth and water elements. Kapha is dull, cold, heavy, slightly, they say unctuous, and like the combination of earth and water. So we've seen that earth and water within the nature this week for sure. And so with that, with the Kapha, most of what we want to do is what we did to balance this week. So a little bit more stimulation, a little bit more exercise. Kapha tends to go out of balance by accumulating too much mass, because it is that nutrient component, the building blocks of life is the Kapha. But we can go out of balance when we have too much of it, of course. And our society tends to not really, what's the word for it? Respect the Kapha. Like, we think of heavier body types as a society. We're not as accepting of them, but actually the Kapha body type is very, very strong. Actually, one of the most strong constitutions. The reason being, the Kaphas can be the longest living of the doshas, actually, if in balance. So what we want to do to stay in a healthy Kapha state is to stay moving, stay active, keep the foods warm, stay away from the dairy and the heavy foods for the Kapha. A little bit of oils can be good because that's nurturing to the joints, but really staying away from the heavier foods and sweets can be a challenge for the Kaphas. So now we've got our three primary doshas, Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. And if I have a piece of paper here, I'll write down for you guys. I do. So you've got these three doshas. Just a little visual aid. And we have B, P, K, and then we've got PV, PK, BK. So we've got the doshas, and then what I'd like to show you is that we've got the interactions. So there we go. So on here up above, we've got the Vata, and then the Pitta, and then the Kapha. And then you could have combinations. So you could have a person that was primarily Pitta with Vata as the secondary, or you could have a person that's primarily Vata with Pitta as the secondary. Did I say that twice the same way? Right, so there's two combinations. The primary, whatever the first one is, the one you had the most points on, that's going to be the one we balance first. But in the opposite season, we also want to be very mindful around the second dosha. So if you had a true Pitta constitution, Pitta Vata constitution, mostly Pitta, then summer would be the most challenging. So you want to be the most mindful around that in the summer, the cooling aspect. But that Vata might come up still for the Pitta Vata constitution in the fall. So we also want to watch for that. And then the Pitta Kapha, same thing. You could have in the summer balance the Pitta, and then in the spring and the winter balance the Kapha. Same thing with the Vata Kapha. Now the ninth combination, no, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, seventh combination is where you have all three of the doshas most balanced, Vata, Pitta, Kapha together. This is called tridoshic, right? And there's only 1/7 of chance that one person will be Vata, Pitta, or Kapha. So we've got a 1/7 chance to be in any of those number of things. The person that is tridoshic is most likely to stay in balance. The reason for that is that they have all the other doshas also working in the same level, at the same amount, percentage. However, it's also a little harder to see symptoms with that person. Our goal, remember that with Ayurveda, our goal is not that we are all tridoshic. That would be an unreasonable goal. It's not even an intent that makes sense. It's not to be even. What we want is to be balanced for what our constitution is. And again, your constitution was set at birth. It was actually set at conception. So when we think about DNA being the same for, or the DNA inputs being similar for siblings, for example, but one sibling will be quite different. And one, that's how the genes manifest, but also it's the time of conception can make a big difference. So if you were born earlier than your siblings, you will present differently because your parents were different. And then on the second and third birth in the family, the presentation of the parents can be different. Even just the energy of the parents' connection, that kind of thing can make a big difference. So again, your dosha constitution, your prakriti is any number of things. It's Vata, Pitta, or Kapha, or any combination thereof. And if you do happen to be tridoshic, it can be very easy to stay healthy. It can be very easy to go in and out of different climates and such, but it also can be a little bit more to manage. So anyway, let's see. I hope this gives us a little bit of intro to how to look at the doshas and how to start to work with ourselves. There's a lot of online resources available to you guys. Maybe the John Douliard's website, he talks a lot. The lifespa.com, he blends some of the Western thought and he does some really good research writing and then brings it into Ayurveda. I really like some of his work. Banyan Botanicals, it's a website that sells some of the products that I use. They also have a lot of information on their website that can be a nice once over. I use that as a reference sometimes. But really to start to work with your dosha and your constitution, we'll start with balancing for the season, which is what we do in our the cleanses, which I aim to do for you guys with the cleanses, and then looking at individualized work with Ayurveda. It's not that we're supposed to be able to solve everything on our own, though it is lifestyle medicine. You can also go to a practitioner and get your doshas kind of looked at and get your vikriti, which is your imbalances, looked at, and look at ways that we can help to balance. So it can be really overwhelming. You're not supposed to necessarily be experts at this point, but just kind of starting to look at the doshas is really fun, and it can be a fun lens. Ayurveda is basically a lens to see the world. So I hope that it's been inspiring for everyone to look more deeply at who we each are and how we can be more healthy. And if there's been some challenges, there always will be along the way with the cleansing and such. Know that every time you cleanse, you'll have this different experience, and some might be easier and some might be harder, and it's all about the process. So anyway, if you have questions about your dosha, feel free to type them on this thread, and then we could talk about them a little bit. If you guys have feedback on that, it'd be great. Okay, I'm going to sign out. Have a good night.